Thank you for tuning in to the digital series that we call 10 Questions with NBC10 Boston. This month, we're celebrating Black History Month, and our first guest is actually a native of New Jersey. He's making his mark in the Boston area, in Boston fine dining specifically. Chef Douglas Williams, thank you for joining us so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Really
How are
appreciate
you?
it.
Of course. How have you been?
I've been good. I mean, this is an interesting time, but it's all, you just gotta make it. And when you look to, your elders and your grandma and great grandma and all that, it's like this is kind of easy shillings. Ain't no big deal. We better get some sleep and brush it off. So it's all good. It's all good.
Exactly. That's good to hear. And like I mentioned, you are originally from New Jersey. So how does a Jersey kid make his way to the Boston area, for those who don't know your story?
I think for me it was just opportunity. Atlantic City has definitely seen its strange times, I guess you can say, in the past, and it's been like that for a while. And I just thought I gotta get the heck out of there and see what else is going on in the rest of the country. And Boston at the time, this was 2006. I saw there was some opportunity happening, and I decided to take a little trip and do what we call a stage, which is basically a working interview in Boston in one of the best kitchens at that time in the country. And I loved it, and I was like, well, this is where I'm going to go and start off and kind of leapfrog into the rest of the world from Boston. And obviously when you're in places, you meet people, and I met someone that I loved, and she allowed me the opportunity to not only do whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted in the world, by training and by enriching myself and enriching my passion, and then coming back to, grow my roots with her. And that allowed me to not only leave Boston and have perspective, but also come back with more information and a greater sense of what I need to do in order to be successful in Boston.
And I am a sucker for a good love story. I saw that you guys met at Middlesex Lounge at the No Longer in the
Yes.
What was that? That wasn't even my plan, but why not talk about it?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that story. And she tells it way better. But basically, we're on the dance floor, and it's not a club; it's a lounge, right? There's a difference, and we're in there just dancing, what I like to do, and don't need anybody around. Just want to be in my own thing. And it was a great DJ that night, and actually her friend kind of, this is a story. She kind of got bumped into me, and my buddy kind of bumped me into her. But I saw her and her curly hair, and that was all. I actually didn't see her face because it was kind of shaded in there, and there's like a window towards the end, so you see a shadow. So I actually never saw her face that much, but I saw the outline and enough to make an adult decision that we should probably move forward. And she ended up coming to the restaurant a few days later. I snagged her number off of the hostess book, and when we didn't use the iPad, it was just a book, and I called her, and that was the end of that. And we stayed up talking 2 nights in a row till 5 in the morning. I think when you pull that like 8th grade talk till 5 in the morning move and it works, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. So
Right.
I knew that happened. I knew it was a keep going with this. So that's what we did.
Wait, was this when they were still charging you per minute on your cell phone bill?
Yeah, I think that's actually the time they started like charge you for internet. There was actually no phone on. There was no camera on my phone. I had the BlackBerry World Edition, and anyway, that was that. It was that 2008 time. So yeah, it was that weird in between. So
Right. That's it's real. I love the love story. And we are in February. We're Valentine's Day, so it's perfect time.
love
But
it.
you are a chef and the owner of MIDA restaurant, which sits at the intersection of, like I like to say, of Roxbury and the South End.
Yes,
Why
absolutely.
that location specifically?
Well, two things. One is serendipitous. One is, strategic. The first one, it was I needed a space that, honestly, I was going down Mass Ave. Everybody knows Mass Ave on here, hopefully, towards Washington, towards kind of outside the city, Molina Cass. And I used to take a left on Mass Ave to go towards the South End because that's where I worked. It's a place called Copa. And when you look to the right, you see Roxbury, and you see it's like darker on that side. Like the lights aren't as shiny, and there's not as many light bulbs in there. There's not as much foot traffic and all the things, but you see, more of yourself on that side. And then I looked to the left, and then I saw more action and more bustle and more parking and double parking precisely. And I just saw more happening, more life, and I just was like, why is it? It's only 200 feet over. That's weird to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I just thought about that, and that stuck in my mind for years. And the serendipitous part was that it was actually under agreement. It was not under agreement, but it was being talked to from the landlord. A couple people were talking to the landlord about that space, and my partner, stepped in and said that would be an excellent space, and I said that would definitely be an excellent space. So he said, let me talk and see what we can work out, and he made it happen. And I think it's just, we're actually on the Roxbury side, 200 feet over, but I think that allowed me to build a bridge, to the rest of, not just the South End, but to the rest of the city, and to all that want to come and just have yummy ass food and have fun and be around each other. That just be, and that's all you really want to do when you go to a restaurant. Doesn't matter who's in there per se, as long as everyone's about the same thing, the good things, and just eat and look good and feel good and drink good and eat good, and that's really all you really need to do when you open up a restaurant. So I'm very excited that we were able to do that, and we get to keep that going and grow and expand and do all the things that we came there for.
Yeah, and like you said, it is definitely very poetic the way that food always brings people together anyway. But in a city like Boston, where it is known for being very segregated, so to speak, your restaurant literally brings those two communities together, which I think is beautiful. I was looking at a feature that CBS News did on you, and there was a photo in there that caught my eye. You were feeding seagulls at such a young age on the Atlantic City shore. When do you remember your earliest passions of loving to feed or give through food, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just kind of an always answer, right? My mom was Syrian Lebanese. My dad was black gentleman. He was a chef. She was the cocktail waitress. We already know how that went. But no, he would bring me into the walk-in and show me the lobsters, and so it was always, just a part. It's almost like if you grow up in a musical family, and a lot of my family they grew up in church, and everybody was in the choir or playing the bass or on the drums or playing the piano or the organ. And when it's just there's really no, it's not a gate that goes up and down and you're allowed access, and it's just part of you. And I think it was that for me. It was, I grew up cooking eggs and stuffing turkeys when it was Thanksgiving, and making sweet potato pies when it was Christmas and whatever it may be. So it just always was in my blood. And when we finally got a garden, when we finally bought our first house, my mom actually, she got to have her garden and make her tomatoes and eggplants and make her Syrian Lebanese and Middle Eastern food. And I got to see that, but also that was the time I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease doesn't allow you to eat any starch, any sugars, anything from a can. My cereal intake was cut from 6 bowls to no bowls in overnight.
Cereal too.
I love cereal. I mean, cereal was basically my every meal I was having cereal. So and it was that was my kind of reinvention of myself into who I want to be for a chef, and who I want to be for my professional life. And was that Crohn's piece, because then I had the access to a garden and a mother that knew what she was doing, and that allowed me to feed myself better and more natural foods, and that made me more interested in cooking for other people in better ways and more natural ways. And then it turned into a professional sense. So I'm happy it all kind of went in that way, even though it seemed like Crohn's was going to be the last of my cooking expeditions, but it actually turned out being the beginning.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think for you, it sounds like it sparked you to be inspired to help others. And a lot of your mantra seems to be healing through food and showing others how to cook for themselves. And you've done a lot of work in the Boston community. For those who don't know, what inspired you, other than your diagnosis, to really get involved in this community specifically?
Sure. I see, for the base of it comes from, obviously the cooking and how we feel about ourselves, and that projects then how we feel about others. And I thought, if I can start to translate the 15-year-old me, right, through the now me into other 15-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 24, or however old they may be or young, I can start to transfer the image of, okay, what is it besides the food, right? What is it besides how you grew up? And for me, it was honestly having a single mom. and dad being away, but missing that time between the age of 6 and 15. Having that father figure. And I know that I'm not the only one. We all have our different, levels of that in our own way. And if we don't have that, then we're very fortunate, and hopefully we know that. But I wanted to try to connect and relate and show that, yes, I'm on this, this level now, but that took me releasing a lot of the pain and a lot of the things and the damage that had been caused in my life, but that we see as just what happened. But it actually is what happened to all of us. And I think if we can share that through food, and I can share a story and through ways like this right now, we can relieve a lot of that and get to the things that make us happy, and hopefully those happy things become our professional life, because you can do what makes you happy forever. And if you can combine that, the professional and the things you love, I'm still waiting to clock in for my first day, because I have not worked a day in my life. And I don't say that to be pompous, I mean to be it's very real, is that you do what you love. And I know it's cliche, but I never work, because I absolutely can't imagine actually doing anything else. And I wouldn't want to. So I'm very happy, and I want to share that and show how to get to that point. And I think that unlocks a lot of potential in our community without even spending a dollar.
And a lot of your work is centered around your organization, Community Through Hospitality. When was that started?
It was started actually about 2 years ago. I want to say, my partner Seth Gerber, he thought we were trying to think of ways to be busy, honestly, in the month of February, because it's a slower time. Super Bowl cuts out all that Super Bowl excitement, cuts out a lot of weeks, and everyone's just focused on football, especially when we're going to, the Patriots are going to it every single year. That's like a decade of lost revenue. So we need to find out a better way, and also celebrate, obviously Black History Month in a different way. Everything is, Black history centric, and it can kind of become a little diluted. And I wanted to try to concentrate that effort, but in a way that feels natural and real and believable, and just people just grab hold of that. And essentially what it is, we allow other businesses to not necessarily donate all the time, but just to be a part and show people that how they can be a help in that effort, and donate whatever money they have, and maybe invite other businesses to become involved, just to show exposure that it's a really about community and giving opportunities to people who are already here and who already want them. And that's the funny part about activism, is just you have the resources. That's what's frustrating about it, is the resources are already around us, and within us, but sometimes the opportunities are not provided by state and local government at all times, and it really should be. So we have to do it ourselves, and hopefully bring them in and rope the local government and rope other businesses into be a part of this. And we just want to do well for the community, as everybody does.
And we are in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, which is why this interview isn't even in person. But I know that the restaurant industry did suffer a lot as a result. How did it affect you and your business overall?
Completely. It was I would say blessing, a curse, but it's definitely a curse, and then many blessings after, because we're trying to find there's huge losses and there's huge silver linings, and I think we all agree with that in our own ways, in personal ways, in business guys as well. And essentially we've had to reformulate our entire business and how we employee roles, losses, cutting fat from areas that we didn't really need, and all those things. And we just are trying to really understand what it is to have a restaurant right now, and does that apply to the next few months, and does that apply to the next few years? We will see, but I think that it will. We're trying to figure out what that means, but we are surviving, we are growing, and we are actually haven't laid off one person since the pandemic, and we want to make sure that continues.
And you mentioned that silver lining. In 2020, you were named the best new chef, and the only 10 people were named to that list for Food and Wine magazine. What was
in
that
America?
Like?
Yeah. I still smile. I got smiles in the back too. I'm like, oh, I'm all back there. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about, the work that you've done in the community, and the reason why we decided to do this series was not to highlight the people of the past that have made an impact in the Boston community, but people that are currently, I think, making history, so to speak. And for you, I know you're still working on your new projects, but overall, what would you like to be remembered for, specifically in the Boston community, when it comes to Black History Month and even beyond?
That's a deep question. I would say honestly, and I say this because this is how I view it, that I celebrated Black History Month every month, and that's, I think, what, obviously should happen, but I think that it's about celebrating all of us. But if we're talking about Black History Month, that should be every month. And I try to treat it so, in either talking, helping churches or helping, BCYF, whatever it may be, all the programs, local government. Ayanna Pressley basically helped me get my restaurant before she was a congresswoman, and I got Ayanna Pressley poster on my wall. It's like, when your player goes from the rookie league to the major leagues, you just can't help but rep it. So it's like it's that all the time, and making sure those things happen every year, and making sure you say them out loud and tell them out loud and tell stories about it. And just like you treat your life like a family dinner table, and you just keep telling those stories. You keep reminding why, who, where it was involved, where it was happening, why it was happening, and you just keep saying the positive and the negative. Because Grandma's definitely got something to say about all the things you've been doing, and I want to do the same thing. In my sense, is that give the real. I just want to give the real all the time, but also be doing something about things that aren't so great. And I think if I can do that and I can be remembered for that, that would be, I can live with that.
Chef and owner of MIDA Restaurant in Boston, Chef Douglas Williams, thank you so much for joining NBC10 Boston this month.
Thank you very much. Happy Black History Month.